encouraged, but
But I also think it's important to recognize there's a huge difference between a measles vaccine or a polio vaccine. Those are very different things here. If you don't want to get a flu shot or a COVID vaccine and you're okay getting sick at this point in time, it's very different than it was in 2020 and 2021. Measles and polio, we eradicated those diseases and to see measles coming back in the family. So I think that they're just very different choices for the American public. And I do think it's unfortunate that our leadership is questioning those vaccines that the science has been tested.
It's the middle of the week, someday, right? So, like, what are you looking forward to? What are you keeping an eye on?
Well, I am excited about the next Pacers playoff. I would like to one.
And
I think it's nice to have a break. I think sports is a great break for the American people from Congress and all the other things that are.
it's like the top half is Congress, so everyone is just crawling through the week trying to
sports the great distraction.
House Committee convened at 1 a.m. and they're still meeting. Republicans trying to get that mega tax and spending bill over the finish line. One problem remains: Republicans don't know if they have enough Republicans on board to pass it. And this morning, 5 fugitives are still on the run after one more escape from the New Orleans was captured overnight. And now we're allegedly helping them break.
The FDA is cracking down on copycats of popular weight loss drugs. What this means for people who keep versions. Sarah is on assignment. I'm John Berman with Kate Baldwin. This is CNN News Center.
Breaking news overnight, the class on Capitol Hill is still up and at it and working after pulling an all-nighter, with President Trump's second-term agenda hanging in the balance. A key House committee convened at 1 a.m. to debate what the president calls his big, beautiful bill, his massive tax and spending bill. Basically, unless it passes the committee of the continues. of the matter is they failed to Republican hold out that big concerns about the price tag, which we now have a new estimate coming out overnight from the paper saying that nearly $4 trillion over the next 10 years. Some of that will be offset, but spending cuts, including deep cuts to Medicaid, would definitely remain. That's despite the president telling Republicans not to quote F around that more than 71 billion Americans. There is a lot that is unknown, which includes what actually will this bill look like in the end. That's still not known today. Lauren Fox is joining us with the very latest. And Lauren, you just spoke to the House Speaker as we were coming to air. What did he tell you?
Yeah, the House Speaker made it clear that they've been trying to vote tonight that manager's amendment or the changes that are coming to the bill, those are forthcoming. Here he was just a short time ago.
Few more conversations and we'll have an after about it. Rules Committee knows what to expect, so.
As through where you think things are on SALT is this idea of 40,000 cap over 10 years. The deal at this point?
That's the agreement that we came to, and, I think that the SALT caucus, as they call themselves, it's not everything they wanted, but I think they know what a huge improvement that is for the constituents, and it gives them a lot going about. Of course, in the full context of the whole bill, they're doing a lot for the residents of their state, so they've got a lot to be pleased with. And I think that's going to get the job done.
Are you going to call it having meetings?
It's about 45 minutes.
So it's okay with that SALT change?
No one is delighted by that, right? But they are handling this issue and keeping the majority. And I think, again, with all the great things in this bill, everyone's got a lot to go home and brag about. So they're excited. Everybody's excited to get this thing to the finish line. And there's a lot of energy and a lot of anticipation. So it's a big day for us.
Coming to the floor tomorrow.
We plan to do it tonight, if possible. That's my plan. So stay tuned.
Thank you. You see there, a bleary-eyed but very upbeat House Speaker as he says that they might try to actually pass this tonight. That is obviously a little faster than the Thursday deadline that everyone was thinking and aiming for here in the House of Representatives. Meanwhile, this House Rules Committee, it is still going. They're still having conversations, and we expect that this could go throughout today into the early evening even, because Democrats want to keep holding Republicans' feet to the fire. They plan to bring up several, if not hundreds of amendments. At some point, Republicans cut them off, but it's just not clear right now how long that meeting is going to take. You can expect that this is convenient in some ways for the House leadership, because as this Rules Committee is meeting, as they are meeting, leadership can be meeting with people behind doors, skeptics trying to get the votes that they need so that they can hear as early as Kate.
Yeah, what those changes are still completely TBD, though you're getting some things, at least when it comes to the tax deductions for expensive coastal states. Regardless, let's see what they will be doing with the self-imposed deadline of getting this over the finish line by Memorial Day. Lauren, thank you so much. She's going to be watching this very closely. Right, John?
All I can say is 45 minutes of sleep for the speaker. Welcome to the morning news schedule. All right, breaking this morning, we are getting our first look at scenes from northern Alabama after a devastating night of severe weather. Witnesses say a tornado tore a path at least a mile long through one neighborhood in Madison. Violent storms have killed at least 28 people in 3 states since Friday. CNN's Allison Chin tracking all the weather for us. These storms have just been relentless.
It's been day after day after day. And the thing to remember, too, is that for some of these states and cities, they had multiple days that they were dealing with some of these issues. So, yes, we're looking at some of these possibilities where we can have some of these areas that have had a couple of different days of not just tornadoes, but maybe very large hail, damaging wind gusts. The video behind me, you can see this is a tornado from yesterday. This was in Alabama, just outside of Huntsville, Alabama, but it was one of 13 total tornado reports just in the last 24 hours. Again, we've had a lot in the last few days, but this right here, this was just the last 24 hours. You can see we've had over 170 wind reports and roughly 60 large hail reports. Some of those that larger than golf balls. So if you go back a few days, we've had baseball size hail reports over the weekend. Now, when we talk about tornadoes, we are really starting to see those tornado report numbers jump. Take a look at this. 883 is the current count. This is as of yesterday. This is as of the day before yesterday. It does not include the last 24 hours, but the average that we would have up to this point is only 653. So we are well above average for where we normally would be by this point in late May. This is some of the video from the devastating tornado last Friday. This is the one that hit London, Kentucky. This was eventually rated an EF4 tornado. It went on the ground for 55 miles. It was nearly a mile wide at its widest point possible. We talk about a lot of those numbers here and how far above average, but keep in mind too that May is statistically the peak of when we would have the most tornadoes, followed by June, and then we gradually start to see things taper back off as we head to the back end of summer and certainly into the fall. Here's a look at where the storms are now. You can see we still have several strong thunderstorms across portions of the Carolinas and even down into portions of Georgia. This is where the biggest activity is going to be in terms of those strong thunderstorms for the remainder of the day today and into the evening.
All right, we will continue to watch it, Allison Fisher. Thank you very much. Kate?
A male exotic dancer takes a stand in the federal sex trafficking racketeering trial of Sean Holmes, what he said happened at those so-called freak-offs, and who could take the stand next. Also, on dash cam, the driver of this dump truck, just look at this, loses control and crashes into a home, basically at full speed. And in a very different twist, Sarah Sider sitting down with America's and the world's favorite frog, one and only Kermit, set to give a special commencement address at the University of Maryland. We'll be back.
Hear every game of the NBA playoffs on Sirius XM. Don't miss a second of the action all the way through the NBA Finals. Pitch comes from the left wing. Is win. And throughout the playoffs, get closer to the storylines that matter on NBA Radio, Channel 86.
There are certain guys that you need to be a part of your roster to win NBA championships.
Listen to home and away broadcasts of every NBA playoff game on your radio and the Sirius XM app.
Progressive knows everyday life in your RV. RV wins.
Take the RV to the lake or clean out your closet. Putting the dishes away or taking the RV camping. Cleaning a fridge or taking a trip to the beach. You might want to clean the fridge real quick because, we clean up the fridge and take the RV out.
With Progressive, you can run your RV with your the same with a discount instant with an insurance savings in your Progressive temperature is noted in all situations.
California Closets just custom designed Chloe's home office/guest room. Now she has a spacious desk with built-in charging for devices. Sleek wood cabinets conceal a queen-size Murphy bed for guests, and drawers deep enough to hide cold sheets and a printer. Now her spare room is perfect for work days and weekend visits. California Closets makes space for what belongs. We did it for Chloe, and we can do it for you. Schedule your free design consultation now at 800 Cal Closets or CaliforniaClosets.com.
There's nothing like that first cup of coffee in the morning until the jitters kick in. Your stomach feels bloated and you start to crash. Kind of takes the joy out of coffee, right? Maybe it's time to try Everyday Dose. It's coffee plus benefits. Kate, as we're learning, my colleague Kylie Atwood and I, that the president and his top officials around him are growing increasingly frustrated with how Israel and specifically Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is handling the conflict. One of the sources told me that essentially it boils down to one key issue, which is the president wants this war to end and he wants it to end soon. Netanyahu, they fear, is not quite ready to deal. In the words of one of these people who are close to the president, they said the president obviously wants a deal. It's becoming more clear as talks continue that Bibi is not quite there. Now, all of this, of course, as we've also learned in the last 2 weeks, there were 3 trips from major cabinet members, Vice President J.D. Vance, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, both of them scrapping their plans to go to Israel. The president also did not choose to visit Israel when he went to the Middle East last week, something he did do on that same trip during his first term. And again, I think this is so important to know because there's been so much, of course, look at how the president has been really frustrated between, stalling negotiations between Russia and Ukraine. We're learning now that it's the same with Israel. He was telling me that essentially
It's not trying to change anything. David Hogg, others, the DNC kicked out. They picked a very lackluster chair. The other, you look at the progressive movement space where I've also spent time. No real reckoning yet. You have just a continued sense that everything we're doing is perfect. Let's just do, the land acknowledgements and all this academic jargony stuff that no one understands, that alienates people that don't understand what those things are. No reckoning there. Leaders, individual Democratic leaders who have just been completely disappointing to most people watching this, who have not stood up, not chosen spine. People have red voices, and I hear most from people. You haven't had one leadership shuffle. You haven't had one new leader. You haven't had anybody say, you know what, I'm not adequate to this moment. This sounds like a very negative analysis, and it is, but I think what I wanted to call people's attention to is there's a risk of becoming Trump-like in opposing Trump. There's a risk in becoming as defensive, as smug, as self-certain, as incurious. In curiosity, this is the thing I found the most. And all these people and institutions that we have to look at ourselves. No one, as far as I can tell, ended up looking at themselves, and no one has ended up really saying, we need a completely different kind of party. We need to report the news differently. What does anybody think they need to do differently 6 months ago? I don't think you stand up for democracy with values of kind of closeness. And I think the value of curiosity, openness, is the only way to beat whatever Donald Trump is.
Well, what democracy would be curious about is how they lost. People making less $50,000 to Donald Trump. I mean, they say Donald Trump's evil, he's a racist, he's this, he's that, he's that. The focus now, if you're a Democrat, I'm just talking to somebody who's running an election or two, it's not what's behind me, it's what's in front of me. Donald Trump is not going to be running again in 2028. And so the Democratic Party can keep looking backwards. They don't need to look to Donald Trump. They need to look to people who voted for Donald Trump and why they lost to Donald Trump. And as Adam says,
exactly that. Like, we've had people on the show. Why did working Americans make less than $50,000 vote for Donald Trump? They can't answer the question. Democrats can't answer that question. And by the way, why people of color towards him after 4 years of experiencing as president, right? If these things don't provoke reckoning and real rethinking, we have one new leader, right? It's remarkable.
Well, what's remarkable, and what needs a reckoning is the Democrats, actually, more than just the Democrats, more than just a political party, is how is it that one specific political party, Republican Party, seems gravitated towards, captured by, and clings to one individual, Donald J. Trump. How did he do this? How did he transform politics in America and become so all-consuming to so many people, including Democrats, including people making $50,000 a year or less, including laborers, firefighters, police officers? What is it about him? You have to look at your enemy in order to defeat an enemy. You have to know who you're fighting. It seems to me, and a lot of other people, I think, the Democrats simply have never sat down and defined who he is and how to go first who you are. And the Democrats don't know who they like. And secondly, you have to know who your opponent is. And again, they're not running against Donald Trump in 2028. They're running against him in 2026. They're running against him in 2028. Right? So, because they figure out first, and they have to know what battlefield they're on. I think the answer to your question, one of them, is that Donald Trump understands maybe uniquely that politics in this day and age is played on a level of emotion and psychology and attention as much as it is on policy. And it's incredible to me how few people understand that on the other side, how few people understand the importance of being a culture, having a cultural figure, a cultural presence that helps people sort through. Donald Trump, for all of his profound personal and cerebral limitations, is a player in the culture and is participating in the meaning-making process that voters are engaged in every day. Why are my kids learning this in school? Donald Trump is running most in the cultural meaning-making process in this country. And the Democratic Party, and we can talk about other institutions, the Democratic Party, above all, has abdicated any role participating in the cultural process. Instead, it stands at the end of the pipeline saying, please $5 and please vote. And is ignoring 90% of where politics happens, where people figure out the world, figure out what they think, make sense of things, and form preferences. And John Howman, certainly Democrats have struggled to handle Donald Trump, but they're even worse for identifying themselves, reaching a message going forward. A few exceptions. We know we see the crowd that Bernie Sanders, AOC drawn, but as you speak to members of the party here, because some of the Democrats I've talked to are frustrated that even though they're still doing it, there's a party right now still consumed with the past, not looking for the future and a new message.
John, I think there's a couple of important things to say. One is to the end of Anand's last point is it is true and also not true that Democrats, and when I say Democrats, you're out of the party, but liberals, the left of center, whatever, the cultural conversation. In fact, there are a couple different cultural conversations going on in America at the same time, and one of the reasons why the cultural conversation on the right has become so much traction is because of the fact that the left, or Democrats, whatever you want to call them, has been seen as dominating the mainstream cultural conversation for so long. Who controls Hollywood? Who controls the media? And that's, you have to be kind of nuts to think that the mainstream media and the mainstream entertainment establishment in America isn't largely left of center. What's happening is there's these two different conversations, and what has happened is the conversation, this gets your point, John, is that right now, the Democratic Party finds it is no longer the home of working Americans largely, and Bobby Kennedy, the coalition that Bobby Kennedy was trying to put together in 1968 before he was killed, that coalition of working class whites, working class Latinos, working class African Americans, that coalition has been put together more effectively by Donald Trump than by anybody in the Democratic Party. That's a huge problem. And to Joe's point, that conversation
the answer is a jury that's motivated to convict their client. Leave her alone. How about Kid Cudi? We'll take the stand soon-ish. What do you think the jury will say there? Remember, I think it's an 8-4 women jury. Yeah. So listen, it goes to a relationship, and it depends how you slice this with respect to his testimony. Now, he is a person who apparently was with Cassie Ventura. How can you view that? You could view that again to the defense about everything that Combs did wasn't motivated to coerce you into sexual activity. It was done because you're seeing someone else and I love you. You're in my life. It should be you and me. I can see whoever I want, right? Apparently in his mind. But you, as a woman, you're going with someone else. Are you serious? And so I think you could explain it as a defense system. I'm just jealous and outraged. It also goes to the issue of a person who is so brutalized. Cassie, so says the prosecution. Well, she certainly had the ability to see someone else. So all evidence cuts both ways. You need to explain it to the jury in closing arguments. Counsel, thank you very much. I will see you again soon on this, I am sure. This morning, billionaires on the brink of a major tax cut as a new report shows. In the past year, the 10 richest Americans got $365 million richer. And this morning, hopefully, it'll be this first weekly audience in Peter Square.
If you need to hire, it seems like the whole process can be exhausting. You search for resumes, wait for the right candidates to apply, set up initial interviews. It's a lot of time and work. Well, what if you could meet with qualified candidates for your job the very next day? Now you can with Intro from ZipRecruiter. And right now, you can try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/news. ZipIntro is super easy to use. You simply pick a time, and it does all the work of finding and scheduling qualified candidates for you. Then you can choose who you want to talk to and meet some great people on back-to-back video calls as soon as the next day. Best of all, you save time and energy.
Try ZipIntro for free right now with exclusive webinars. ZipRecruiter.com/news. ZipIntro. Post jobs today. Talk to qualified candidates tomorrow. Once again, go to ZipRecruiter.com/news to try it for free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/news. Expense eating into your company's profits. It's your cloud computing bill. You may have gotten the deal to start, but now the spend is sky high and increasing every year. But you could cut your cloud bill in half and improve performance at the same time. Well, if you back by May 31st, Oracle Cloud Infrastructure can help you do just that. OCI is the next generation cloud designed for every workload. You can run any application, including any AI projects, faster and more securely for less. Oracle has a special promotion where you can cut your cloud and when you sign on average, OCI costs 50% less for storage and 80% less for networking. Join Skydance Animation and today's innovative AI tech companies upgraded to OEI. Offer only for new U.S. customers with a minimum financial commitment. See if you qualify for FI at oracle.com/CNN. That's oracle.com/CNN.
Easy to set up, elevated by the NBA. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, and easy to within 90 days. Consult your healthcare provider before use, especially if you're pregnant or hypertension medication on a regular basis.
Are you on a GLP-1 medication like Ozempic or Mounjaro? For a simple, effective way to keep the muscle while you lose the fat, then you need Replenta, a delicious nutritional drink physician formulated specifically for GLP-1 users with a unique to help prevent muscle loss and support muscle tone, plus prebiotics for digestive health and collagen for skin elasticity. With electrolytes, it's the perfect way to stay hydrated, balanced all day long. Give your muscles, your gut, and your skin the care they deserve with Replenta, backed by science, designed with you in mind. Replenta is made at USA and an FDA-registered facility. Now you can feel your best and look your best on your weight loss journey. On a GLP-1, get Replenta and CVS Walmart and Publix.
At Fisher Investments, we may seem like money managers, but we're different. What makes you so different than the rest of us? We assure our clients receive unparalleled service action. Tell me more. Our investment counselors focus on service over sales, prioritizing clients' needs. lifestyle. First now. And Fisher never does that. It cools it 8 times faster and lets you chew your comfort on either side. Your sleep number 7. It's the Sleep Number Everything Smart Bed sale. Every smart bed and base are on sale during our Memorial Day event. Up to 50% off, plus free home delivery. Exclusively to Sleep Number store near you. Learn more. Wesley Financial Group is not offer.
Are you a victim of the township Chuck McDowell?
We start at 3 p.m.